Rounds 1 and 2 of the MLB draft have come to a close tonight, and the Cardinals got their guy with the 7th overall pick. Welcome, everybody, to Arch City Sports. Before we dive into the MLB draft and the Cardinals' 7th overall selection, along with the Cardinals' games this weekend versus the Cubs, make sure to follow us on Spotify if you're listening over there. Rate us a 5-star. We would really appreciate that. Give us a like and subscribe over there if you're watching on YouTube. And, of course, go follow on Instagram and TikTok at Arch City Sports. We would really appreciate that. I mention it every episode, but the support has been so good so far. A little update with that, over 1,200 followers on Instagram, over 1,400 on TikTok. The support has been so great from you guys here in St. Louis and all over the world, St. Louis Cardinals fans. I just hope we can keep it going. But everybody, thank you for tuning in here, whether it be on Spotify or on YouTube. I'm going to start with this weekend's matchups versus Chicago Cubs, rather, and then we're going to dive into the Cardinals selection with the 7th overall pick. It's going to be kind of a controversial one, but when you break it down, he's going to be an absolute star. Let's start on Saturday with what was going to be and what was a doubleheader versus the Chicago Cubs. Game one of the series on Friday, rather. Losing that one and then going into the doubleheader on Saturday, we knew we at least needed a split of this doubleheader, and we really, really needed to sweep this doubleheader and win both of them. We had Lance Lynn on the mound, needing some innings from him, I seem to say all the time, but with our relievers being so taxed right now, we just kind of limping into the All-Star break. We needed as many innings from our starting pitchers as possible, and Lance Lynn did the job, 6 innings, but it really was not about him in this one. In the first inning of this game, the Cardinals put a 9 spot on the board. Mason Wynn with a couple hits in this one. Alec Burleson with 3 hits and 3 RBIs, including a homer. Wilson Contreras, 2 hits and an RBI. Lars Nootbaar had a run in this one. Nolan Arenado with a hit. Everybody got in on the action, actually besides Nootbaar. He was the only one without a hit. Even Matt Carpenter came off the bench and had a double late in this one. But put a 9 spot on the board early in this one, really set the tone, obviously, and made it really easy for Lance to go out there and do his thing. He gave up a homer to actually lead off this game in the first inning versus Seiya Suzuki. But 11-3, a win in this one. Really good bounce back after a tough Friday loss. Like I said, Lance Lynn, 6 innings, 2 runs. Matthew Liberatore bounces back with a solid outing, 1 inning, 2 strikeouts. Kyle Leahy saving our bullpen a little bit with a couple innings. Really good to see the offense absolutely not just bounce back, but explode in this one. Especially with me talking a couple weeks ago, or I guess just last week, making a video about how I think this offense fully healthy can be one of the best, if not the best, in baseball, top to bottom. They're helping that case a little bit, playing very well in this one. Alec Burleson is continuing to show that he might have been an all-star snub this year. Alec Burleson, a breakout season after this entire weekend, now has 16 homers on the season to go along with 50. I'll have to double check here. 17 homers after the one on Sunday. So 17 homers, 53 RBIs, an 814 OPS, and a 288 average. Alec Burleson is having an all-star caliber season. I think he was I know the outfield is loaded in the National League, but I think he was a snub for the All-Star game. You could definitely make a case he should have made it, and I think down the line he's going to make a couple. He has proven a lot to me this year. We have a whole second half of the season to see if he can continue this, along with guys like Mason Wynn, these young guys that haven't had that past resume to show that they are consistent all-stars, need to prove it, especially this second half. So I'm looking at those two guys. But an 11-3 win. The offense really took over in this one, which was really good to see. Going into game 2 of the doubleheader, we had Kyle Gibson on the mound, and Kyle got rocked around to start in this one. It was a really good start for us. Mason Wynn with his 5th homer of the season. Wilson Contreras, 2 batters later, hit his 10th homer of the season. In this one, Mason Wynn another couple hits. Contreras with the homer. Paul Goldschmidt with a couple hits. Donnie had a hit. Nolan Arenado with a couple hits. Nootbaar, Carpenter, Gorman all with hit. Everybody got a hit in this one besides the aforementioned Alec Burleson. But like I said, Kyle Gibson, 4 innings, 10 hits, 4 runs. Definitely not sharp Kyle Gibson like we've seen the majority of the time this first half of the season. 97 pitches to get through 4 innings. I was thinking maybe they could fit him through 5, but he was just laboring every inning, and it was really hot here in St. Louis, and so he was grinding through this one. But you know what? Just like the entire first half of the season, the bullpen showed up big time. John King, 2 hitless innings. Andrew Kittredge, an inning and a third, hitless with 2 strikeouts. Jojo Romero, 2/3 of an inning, 1 hit, no runs. Ryan Helsley, the best closer in the National League. I was going to say in baseball, but Emmanuel Clase is having an unbelievable season for the Guardians. The best National League closer, Ryan Helsley, is 32nd save of the year, 1 inning, no runs. It was actually a 4-3 game in the 8th inning, and Nolan Arenado with his first Nolan Arenado type moment, clutch type moment this year, with a 2 RBI single up the middle. You could see the emotion. He advanced to second base on the wild throw from the center fielder. He advanced to second base. You could see the emotion, the fire. It's one of those things when you have a closer like Ryan Helsley that shuts the door every single time out. If you get any type of lead going into the 9th, you just feel the game is over. And that's what I feel like, especially that's what I personally felt like when Nolan Arenado hit that ball up the middle. Both runs score. I was like, it's over. Ryan Helsley, who's blown 2 saves all year, is going to close the door, which he did. But really good to see Nolan Arenado end this first half on a high note. Hopefully we can carry it into the second half of the season and get him going, get Paul Goldschmidt going, and really take off. But really good win here, 5-4 win. And then we actually had one more, a weird 4-game weekend series. We had one more on Sunday, and things did not go our way. We really needed Miles Mikolas to have a good, strong outing. He has been so inconsistent this year. I don't even want to say a bad pitcher. His ERA says that, a 5.13 ERA. He gave up 6 earned runs in this one in 5 1/3, giving up 8 hits, giving up 4 homers in this one. He's just been so inconsistent. He'll have games where he gives up 1 or 2 in 6 innings, 7 innings of work, and he's super efficient, and he looks super strong, and he looks like the 18-4 Miles Mikolas from 2018. And then he has outings like this where he gives up 6 in 5 1/3, and he gives up 9 or 10 runs against the Reds at home. And then he has a couple starts, like I said, against Pittsburgh and whoever he pitched against last, where it's like, or I guess maybe the Nationals, where it was 7 innings, 1 run, 6 innings, 2 runs. He looks great, and then he comes out here and just doesn't produce. And so he's a huge difference maker in this rotation, especially in the second half. And we're going to get more later in this week on Wednesday and Friday's episodes about the second half of the season. But Miles Mikolas is a huge difference maker going into the second half when you have Sonny Gray and Lance Lynn and Kyle Gibson, who have overall been really good for you. Lance Lynn's had his ups and downs, but overall those 3 guys have been really good for you. And to be honest, Andre Palante's had a really good season as well. But if Miles Mikolas can be that, I'm not asking him to be that 18-4 Miles Mikolas, but if he can be that 4.20 ERA type of guy that gives you 6 innings, giving up 3, maybe 4 runs, we'll definitely take that. But we can't have these outings where he gives up 9, 10, 6 runs that just blow up the game from the very start. Alec Burleson, like I said at the very beginning, with a homer, his 17th in this one. He also had a double to go along with that. Brendan Donovan, a really good day, 3 for 3. And like I said, Nolan Arenado really finishing this first half strong with another 2-hit day, 2 for 4. He is now batting .270 going into the All-Star break, which is a good, hopefully, jumping off point for him. We go into the All-Star break, ending the first half of the season a little over actually when you look at the number of games over the first half of the season. We're 50-46 through 96 games, but with it being the All-Star break, we say it's the first half of the season that is wrapping up. 4 games over. Before the series versus the Cubs started, I said hopefully we can end this 6 games over. We'll take 4 games over, though. We start up the second half versus the Atlanta Braves, which is going to definitely be a tough challenge. But let's jump right into the MLB draft, which was tonight. I discussed earlier how we are going to talk about the second half of the season, especially on Wednesday's episode. I'm actually going to give my first half grades for every player for the St. Louis Cardinals, along with Ali Marmol. and Mozeliak. And then we're also going to take a look at what needs to happen to have a very successful second half and hopefully a very successful postseason here in 2024. But before we do that on Wednesday, we have to address the biggest news for the Cardinals right now, even over the game that happened today and against the Cubs this weekend, is the 7th overall selection to the St. Louis Cardinals. The first time since 1998 that the Cardinals have had a top 10 pick in the MLB draft. I gave you guys my top 4 guys, and one of the 4 was selected. We got my personal 4th option, J.J. Wetherholt. And yes, I wasn't super fired up over this because those other 3 guys I was so high on, talking about Nick Kurtz, Hagen Smith, and Chase Burns, and even Jack Caglione kind of dropped to the 6th pick. I would have put him in my top 4 prospects, but I didn't think he would even be available. And he wasn't. The Royals got him at 6, but I thought he would be top 3. So, J.J. Wetherholt, what do we know about him? We know that he doesn't have a whole lot of power, but that dude hits the absolute crap out of the baseball, batting .449 last year for West Virginia. That led all of college baseball in average. And why I'm not super bothered by it is because Nick Kurtz was off the board. Chase Burns went 2nd, which I think is too high for him, off the board. And Hagen Smith goes 5th to the White Sox. He's off the board. And Jack Caglione went 6th. He's off the board. So we were left with Griffin, a high school pitcher. We were left with Braden Montgomery, who ended up going 12th to the Red Sox. And we were left with J.J. Wetherholt, which, to be honest, to be fair, J.J. had a lot of number 1 pick in the draft talk going into this season. And he's going to be an unbelievable player for the Cardinals. I really don't have a doubt about that. I think he's going to be a very good player for the Cardinals. The only reason I wasn't super high on it is because I think we are in such a win now kind of window that a guy like Nick Kurtz to fill in for Goldie's spot, or Caglione in Goldie's spot, or a top 2 pitcher in your rotation, potentially with Hagen Smith or Chase Burns. That's why I was so high on those guys, because I think, unlike the other teams in the top 10, besides the Guardians, all those teams are still building. We're talking about the Reds. They're better this year, a little under 500, but they're not a good baseball team that is expecting to win now. The Pirates, the same situation. The Rockies, the White Sox, the A's, the Royals have been pretty solid this year, but all those teams are not looking to win now. We are looking to win, especially with Nolan Arenado and Paul Goldschmidt and all the other weapons that we've talked about on this podcast for a week and a half, 2 weeks now. We are in a win now window. And so just like in the NBA draft or NFL draft, when you get a chance to draft high in the draft and you are in a win now window, you're almost looking for positional help. Not saying J.J. Wetherholt will be here next year, but he will be here probably in 2 years. He's already 21 years old. Same thing with all those other guys. And so that's why I was really wanting that positional look at a Nick Kurtz or a Jack Caglione to fill in for first base, or a top 2 pitcher in your rotation that will help immediately, talking a year or two. Why I wasn't super high on JJ is only because we are so deep with our middle infield, and I talked about it last episode, but Mason Wynn is not going anywhere at shortstop. At second base, you have so many different options between Brendan Donovan and Tommy Edman, Cesar Prieto, Thomas Sajaci, Nick Dunn's had a really good year down there. Dakota Harris has had a really good year in Double-A. There's just a lot of options that you can put in that middle infield, and I have not even mentioned Nolan Gorman, who, again, he was our first-round pick a couple years ago, and our top prospect coming up through the minors, going into the majors. And he has 17 homers. I know he's batting .207. I don't believe he's a career .207 hitter. I think he's going to be more of that .240 range. But if he's doing that with 35 homers from the second base spot, you will live with that. And like I said last episode, J.J. Wetherholt is 5'10", 190 pounds. He's not really built to be your corner infielder at third base, and I don't really love him in the outfield, even though he's played a little bit of it. He's going to play second base for you. Now, with all of that being said, I don't hate the pick at all, because he's going to be a great hitter for you. And those guys that I mentioned, the Nick Kurtz, Chase Burns, Jack Caglione, Hagen Smith, even the other ones, Travis Bazzana and Charlie Condon, they were all off the board, leaving us with Wetherholt. And so if you are left with a guy who batted .449 last year and had number 1 pick talk about him coming into the draft, you have to take it and be pretty happy with what you got. You have to feel pretty good with J.J. Wetherholt. And like I said, he's going to have a very successful career, in my opinion, for the Cardinals. And he really fits that Cardinals build, has a Tommy Edman, Lars Nootbaar look about him. He just has that like wholesome St. Louis Cardinal kind of vibe. And I think he's really going to be a fan favorite here. He has speed, really good defensively. Hopefully that power can develop a little bit. Now at second base, you don't have to have a whole lot of power. But if he could be at like a 15 to 20, 25 homers would be amazing. But if he can go, let's just say 15 to 20 homers, he will have a very successful career because I think he will be an over 300 hitter for us, potentially 2 years down the line. Because, again, he's going into his 21-year-old season, and so that means 23 years old, he could definitely be here. But there's going to be a whole lot of things we have to figure out organizationally because Thomas Saggese had 2 homers last night. He's up to almost batting .250. He's on his way. Thomas Saggese's on his way. Then you have Cesar Prieto, who's batting .308 down there. Another thing with Wetherholt, he is a lefty. And so then you have another lefty to throw in the mix. And again, he's not going to be in the mix later this year or next year, most likely. But we're talking 2 years from now. And so a lot of these young guys are going to still be here. And so there's going to be some kind of movement and trade that has to happen because we are running out of spots, especially up the middle, for some of these guys. But overall, J.J. Wetherholt is going to have a phenomenal career for the St. Louis Cardinals. And even though I personally would have had some of those other guys, he was left to us, and I will absolutely take a guy who batted .449 last year for our squad for the future and moving forward. But that's going to wrap it up for this Monday episode of Arch City Sports. Make sure to like and subscribe if you're on YouTube. Follow and rate if you are on Spotify. Go follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Arch City Sports for daily St. Louis sports content. And I will see you guys Wednesday where we break down the first half grades for every St. Louis Cardinals player. That should be a pretty interesting episode.